In this tutorial, we'll demonstrate in struts how to handle request parameters with form beans. In our previous tutorial, we demonstrate how to handle request with the action object. I think it's in the backend, but in this tutorial, we'll learn about the form beans. Actually, what are form beans? From the input form, the data is passed to the backend as part of a request object. So we could grab this data using the request.get parameter from the backend and make use of it. But another approach can be we can create a bean that will collect all the input form data and values, and if in the backend we'll get a reference to this form and access those values. Actually, it is a better practice and it provides better maintainability and it helps in better operations. So actually I can show you one of my article on this. I think this is the article, handling request parameters with form beans. So I will search it here. First of all, you can go to the website computer.justetc.net or simply just etc.net. That will also work, and I'm searching it with the string handling request parameters with form beans. So this is the article that will demonstrate the steps and the information we need for this tutorial. Actually, it is written within 3-4 minutes, so it may not be of high quality, but I think it will give you the necessary information. And we'll also use an example for the demonstration purpose. Better we can take a look at the example, how it operates, and then we will explain all the concepts related to it. So this is running in my local host. This is the application. So this is the register. So what will happen if I give the right information in email address and password, it will show me congratulations. If I write some invalid email address, something like this, without @ or something.com, so it will tell that invalid email address. And if I give passwords less than 6 characters, it will also tell that invalid password or illegal password. But if we give everything right, it will say congratulations. So this is something arbitrary. So it is the confirm, it is telling this is the email address, the password, and congratulations. Now it will tell the password is too short. Actually I kept it blank, and also it is suggesting a value, possible password, just an example of a possible password. So I have given the right values for password, more than 6 characters, and kept the email address to be blank, to be just not valid. So it is telling that it's an invalid email address, and it should be this on this form. And it is also suggesting a email address, just to understand that what should be the right form. So we see that from here we are providing input. From the output we can display the input parameters, and also we can determine what is wrong with the inputs, and also we can suggest something. So from this form to the backend, this data we are typing in these boxes can be just passed as a request parameters. I think it is by default happens with the form get or post submit. It is by default go in the backend, and from the backend we can access these values using the request.get parameter email or request.get parameter password in this format. But another approach could be when we click on sign up, a bean will be created. I think a Java class that will be instantiated with these values, and a form bean will be created, and in the backend that form bean will be used to retrieve these values and do the processing. And we also see that here they are displaying the output, and also they are suggesting something. So from after backend processing, this web page comes, and I think after backend processing we can set the output values for the next level in the request object, or you can just directly write in the response object. That works. But another approach can be, we can create a bin for the outputting purpose, in the next step, and from that bin we can set all the values while processing in the output bin, and in the output JSP page we'll be retrieving values from that bin and display it. I think I mentioned it in my article also. Actually, it's the same thing, the stuff I told. We can use request.get parameter to retrieve the form values from the backend, and backend can be a Java class, Java servlet, or Java JSP, just who is working as the target for that form, target action for that form. And then from the server side we can retrieve the values. Okay, this is just one approach, request.get parameter. And another approach can be, we can define a form bin and use that form bin. And from server side, I mean the destination of the action object, we can set the output values in another bin, or we can directly set it in the request object. And how we can define a form bin to grab the form values? Actually, you have to write a class bin that extends the action form, a struts class, and also you have to declare the bin in the struts config file. So, and also the application we demonstrated to write the coding, or to write the total application, we actually have to follow some steps. Maybe these are the 6 steps that are usual. So what we do actually in this case, I can better demonstrate you from here. So let's see. For the first step, we are telling that we have to modify the struts config file for defining the form bins and all the control flow. Actually, I'm just showing let's create the input pages that calls the actions. We have to write the input page. We can do it in the first or at last if we know the control flow earlier. We can write the control flow first. Okay, this is the input file, input JSP. So this is actually not this one. this form is actually this one. We are just outputting register and register.jsp. It is referring to the register.jsp, and in the register.jsp we are defining that form. We just use the normal form, HTML form. We could define it in a different way, but for the time being it's okay. So there are two controls with email address and password, and we see that it is pointing to the register.to action. So we have to configure this register.to action in the configuration file. I think here I have written that modifying the struts config.xml file is the first step. It works only if you know the total architecture or total what you will be doing with the application. Otherwise, maybe you can start from the step by step. So we are going to the web-inf. Okay. If you think I go fast, you can just pause this video and see what is here, what is written here. So what I am doing here is I am declaring that form bin here, form bin tag, and I am telling it is of type net and just etc.user form bin. This is a bin class that we'll demonstrate little later. And for the action, just the register, we are telling that it will be of type register action, where we will actually define the true action, what it will do and where it will go, those kind of stuffs. And we are telling user form bin, see the similar name because it will be coming from that form. We are telling the scope of this thing is the request. We could define it for the session also. And we are also telling that after this action will be carried, it can go to 3 different destinations. One is this address error, when there will be some error in the email address, and the corresponding forward message will be address error from this class. From this class action execute method. Another destination can be password error, when there is some error with the password, and the corresponding forward string is password error from this register action class and execute method. And another thing is success, it will go to the success.jsp. So this is all you have to do in the as part of the configuration. Okay, and second step is we can create the bin for the form that will extend the action form. We can take a look at here. Okay, it's not well commented, but you can do it. net.just etc, the package, and 2 private variables for the 2 controls, corresponding getter method and setter method are here. Okay, this is the form bin, and we wrote all the getter and setter methods. We could also write a reset method or a validate method that could be used for validate for validation, and reset when the scope is session. That may be useful. And okay, and we also define some output bins. The output bin is the result bin. I think after processing in the action class, we will set this result bin that will be used in the destination pages. Okay, this is the result bin. It also has two methods, two private variables, email and password, and it is giving two getter methods. And there is no restriction that what kind of stuff it must have to provide. It just based on your requirements. But for the form bin, you must have to have the getter methods, you must have to have the setter methods, and also you have to have a zero parameter constructor. But for output message, it's just based on your requirements. So this is the result bin, and it also actually makes use of result utils. I think it has just one method, result bin, get result bin. It just provides us some examples, use of the input parameter values. I think it may not be clear how these things fit into our application. I think it will be clear after a while. Just after defining these result bins, we also have to define the action classes. I think that will give us some ideas of overall what is going on. I think in register action class, in the execute method, what we are telling when email is null or length is smaller than 3, or we don't have at rate symbol. So in that case, we are returning address error as the forward message, and this address error, it will be mapped in the struts config file. No, not really this one. Okay, we know that in struts config file, for in the action mappings, we saw that for the address error, it goes to address error.jsp. We are just returning it here. But what's it here? Right, we are setting the result bin. Okay, for the output purpose, to be used in the destination pages, we are setting a bin, and we are calling the result utils bin to get some information. Actually, it will set some example email address and password, and after this, what it is returning. Just check here. So this method, it is actually returning a bin that is of result bin type, and in result bin we saw that a constructor, if we pass those address and password, it creates the bin. So from here, when there is an error with the email address, it is creating a bin with example email address and setting that bin in the request object. When there is an error with the password, we are returning password error as the forward message, forward action message, and we are also creating a bin that will contain example password, and this bin is set to this request object, and that those will be used in the destination pages. When there is no error, it is success, and success is ultimately mapped to the destination JSP pages as mentioned in the struts.config.xml file. So at this moment, we have defined these action classes, and input pages, you can define it here or at the beginning. Then we can write the output pages. So in our cases, the output page success.jsp Okay, this is for the success, and we are using that user form bin. But here we are not suggesting anything, so we are not using that result bin, but we are also displaying. If I provide the right value here, which are displaying the supplied input values and saying congratulations. So we are using the input form bin, so that user form bin is here, and we are using bin : write to output the property values of those bins. And one more thing, you have to define use this tag library to be able to make use of this bin : write. Actually, for the outputting purpose, we could also use JSP expression language. I can show you here. So this is the JSP expression language that is used for output purpose. We see we don't have the tag library because we are not using bin write, and this is the syntax: user form bin.email, user form bin.password, and it is set in the request object. And for the address error, you just say that we are telling incorrect email address, then we are taking the value that user has already provided in the input form, user form bin property email, and we are also telling that an example format should be of this type. We are taking the value from the result bin. This is the result bin, and we are using the property email. So from here we know that in the action when there is an error, we are creating a bin with the example email and password, and we are setting the bin into the result bin as part of the request, and from the output we are making use of it to suggest. So this is all, and I have also provided a simple build file for this example application, and it will compile, and I can just copy this total application and put it under Tomcat web apps. You can also definitely write something in the build.xml for the deploying purpose and creating the WAR files. Then just check our previous tutorials. That will give you better understanding how we can use the build.xml or end build for the deployment and compilation of those purposes. So we see here, and in our case, source directory and build directory are classes folder web.inf classes, but you can definitely keep your source files under src folder, and after compiling you can put them in the classes. So just follow it, hopefully it will help. So it's the exact same thing that I deployed under Tomcat. Java platform, Tomcat 6, web apps, struts, beans. This is the exact same application, and how you can really try to create this application without using this. Maybe what you can do, you can use one of the struts blank application and go through step by step as mentioned here to write down the total application, and this source code will be provided as part of this article. I'll just link it now, and also this video will be linked from this article, so you will get everything with the article. You can really stop here. I think what I wanted to teach, everything is here, but if you want to see the steps to build it just from the scratch or from the empty folder, so you can carry on. Just I've created struts beans test folder, and from Eclipse Java project, browse, so it's just an empty. Okay, so this application is here, it's just a complete blank. So what is the next step? Maybe creating the directory structure. So new folder webinf, and under webinf folder classes, classes under webinf folder src, under webinf folder library. Okay, this should be it. So we can copy, okay, I think copy this index.jsp file from here to there. So close everything. Just the starting file, then the struts config. Maybe we can take a blank one. Tomcat, where is Tomcat 6? Web applications, struts blank, webinf. Just copy it. You can paste it directly. And another thing is, actually you also require the other files. They come with the blank application, so rather we can take those files as we have always suggested to start with a blank application. Starting from the scratch is not a great idea, because you have to write so many steps to establish the basic. It does not worth it, so better copy them. That will make sense. and then the web XML file. So we are just telling, the only thing is index.jsp that we are mentioning. Maybe we can also take it from the blank application. Sorry, it actually has to be under web-inf. So in our case, open with text editor. Okay, it is telling welcome file list is this. Okay, now modify the struts config. I think there are too many stuffs in the blank also. Okay, there are some example form bin. We can just create ours again. This form bin, copy it here, and paste it here. Form bin and the corresponding class type, and also action mapping. We are checking the type, name, and all the forwards. Copy, and you have to put it under the action mappings. Action is ending here, so we are putting our action here. So that's about the struts config. Then you can write down the classes. User form bin, all the Java classes. Copy and placing it under the okay. So copying the Java files, and actually the package is net, and under net just etc, and also for source net and just paste all the files here. And for the results under web-inf, another folder, results, we can copy all the results. We did not make use of the confirm registration. It was just to demonstrate the expression language. It will work, and it worked according to my experience. Maybe I'll show it here. What do you have to do actually in struts config? For the success, I'm providing success.jsp. You can just provide confirm registration.jsp. It should work great. So okay, and we also need the build file. Pasting it, I think this is not the right place. I wanted to place it at the root. So the application name is struts.test. I think this is required only for war file creation. And source directory, this is actually webinf src. Build directory is webinf classes. So this is the compilation, and default is compiled, so it will come here. And one more thing, we also have to provide the libraries. Struts bin webinf lib. We have to copy it and we have to put it under the library. These are some struts related library and common stuffs for struts. So we are almost done. We can just refresh. So everything is there. So try to build it. Build successful. So we see that all the classes files have come here and corresponding Java files are here. So better try to deploy this application. You really don't need to deploy the source files. I mean the source Java files. You can remove them and deploy. And you can definitely use and build for the deployment purpose. I think it's better to restart the Tomcat. I think it's kind of must when you deploy a new one. So let's see if it works or not. Okay, this is the one as expected. Okay, I think one thing we missed. We did not bring the register.jsp here. Copy, paste, and in webinf I'm just manually providing it. It's a JSP file, so you don't need to restart. So here it is. A register was requested. Okay, there is error. It is telling that register is not defined. I think the problem is in struts config, let we have defined register, but it's actually in the comments. I think they have provided some sample. I think we have to not under comments to put it outside, and also for form bin I think we put them under comments, but we have to put it outside. So I'm just copying this thing to under Tomcat, and in that case I will need to restart Tomcat. Okay, I think I can use the struts config from the previous example. It's really simpler than the struts blank. Maybe we can use it as a struts blank, just removing this, and we can start from this. Just we can put this as part of the struts blank, and we can start from here and define the form bin and then define our action. Okay, I am copying it here and pasting. Okay, and I'm also pasting it in the destination and restart the Tomcat. So test this one. So invalid address. So this is the one, and maybe I can also show you a little bit of the expression language. So what we have to change actually, that we have used this file for the expression language in struts config. For the success, I can better keep the name of this. So just copy this file. This is the Tomcat deployment. So now we are using the JSP expression language. We can just restart Tomcat. Okay, so let's see. Okay, maybe I have to fix. Okay, to demonstrate the expression language, maybe I'm using our previous example. Let's for here. I think not the test one, the previous one. So I can use the confirm registration .jsp. That's all I changed, and we know what is inside here. Just we are using the user form bin. Actually, I also changed it in the struts bins under Tomcat. I just changed it now. Confirm registration.jsp, and if I run the application, from the beginning, register something.com and some password. So it is providing email address and password, just like that, and it is coming from the confirm. To make sure it's coming from the confirm, does it look like this? Yeah, exactly. But we can bold it and see this is the right file it is coming from. So it is the right file. Using the JSP expression language too. I hope this tutorial will help you in understanding the form bin and associated concepts.